Welcome back to the Real Arsenal Deal podcast. This is Rav, your host. Wherever you are in the world, welcome and hope you are all keeping well. I'm recording this in the aftermath of the 2-2 draw we've just seen with Liverpool at Anfield. It's such a bizarre game. It's really a difficult game to talk about in its own right because there's just so much more to it for both teams, to be fair. It's not just from an Arsenal perspective. It's so hard to read and gauge this match outright as I would otherwise dissect a game in previous weeks, months. But just in the broad context of the current point of the season, it's really hard to assess. So I guess what I'll try and do is I'll try and break this recording into a couple of segments. I'll talk about the match itself in its own right. However, much of that will then overlap with a broader perspective where Arsenal currently are, the emotions of the past week, and just it's some very telling, some very interesting comments that Arteta has been making, and he made in the aftermath of today as well. That really give me a lot of insight and a lot of hope, actually, that propels us into next season. So let's start on the match itself. Declan Rice, unfortunately, was completely absent from the squad. From what I read, a hip injury, it sounds like. I'm not sure if he suffered that injury in the loss to PSG in Paris last week or if something's happened on the training ground. Look, it might just even be one of those things, again, in the broad context of the significance of this match, or I guess how little it matters overall. Maybe this is just a case of, look, just sit this one out, Declan. He's played a lot of football. He's basically played every minute of every match for the last, I'm going to say around 2 months. The last time I can recall, and please correct me if I'm wrong, he had a difficult day in that poor loss against West Ham, and he was substituted around the 60, 70-minute mark. Aside from that, he's the engine room of Arsenal. He's carried an enormous responsibility and burden, right? With just with all the things happening around Arsenal and all the continual recurring injuries we suffer. Declan Rice has been one of the staples. Full credit to him. So this might have just been one of those things that, look, if he was 50-50 or if he was just not feeling it, maybe a bit of illness, maybe we've just said, look, sit this one out, sit this one down. I think it's one of those things where had the season gone like maybe we were hoping, had we kept in touch with Liverpool in the league, and had we come into this match at Anfield needing to win to keep the Premier League title alive, I think it would have been a very different result. I just think it's one of those situations, a bit similar maybe to Timber, that if there was so much more riding on this game, I think you would have seen some certain selection decisions made. But anyway, aside from that, a largely predictable lineup. We don't have that many options really, so you can pretty much name, out of our starting 11 each match, you can pretty much name 9 or 10 of them, right? Without even trying too hard. It's just a matter of who sits in at certain positions. Today it was White starting at right back with Timber's absence. Midfield largely picks itself. Forward line largely picks itself. We don't really have Sterling as an option. Still no room for Waneri, which, look, if you've listened to my recent recordings, I'm quite puzzled with. It's hard to know too much. It's hard to be too, critical of that as well. He's played a lot of minutes this season, a lot more than what we all expected. However, in certain match situations, especially when we've been chasing a goal in Champions League semi-finals, you can look, when you look to our bench with how light we otherwise are, if you look for a natural goal scoring option, Waneri has been our third highest goal scorer this season. And for him to not to feature much at all the last maybe 3 to 4 weeks, it's a bit of a head scratcher. I was hoping he would start this one, but look, I think Mikel just wanted to, as much as we're not going to say this externally, right? He wanted to galvanise the team and still go to Anfield with the intention of winning and having your best players play, having Saka play, or all your other key players front up, Odegaard not be rested, and for him to step up. And I think he actually had a really good game, to be honest. He was really, really good. So I just think he wanted to send a signal that, hey, we despite all that we've been through, we're proud. We have standards. We need to respect ourselves more, and not just continue this whimpering end to the league season. Actually, go out there and show something to the fans, and look at your viewpoint may vary on how much this actually means, but also even to send a little message to Liverpool as well that, hey, we're going to be there next year. And I get it from another point of view. From a Liverpool point of view, we think, well, what does that actually matter? Like, where were you when the title was actually on the line? We've already won it. We're in our victory lap right now. We're celebrating. So what does it really matter? And I can totally understand. I can see through all different viewpoints here. But from an Arsenal point of view, this game still did matter. Even if it didn't matter in terms of the league, if you know what I mean, it still did matter to Arsenal. So with that being said, it was a bit disappointing how we started. Arteta, I have not seen him this angry, this furious for a long, long time, actually, about the standards, how far off the pace we were in that first half. He was furious. Even some really interesting comments post-match. If you haven't seen them yet, and I'm just paraphrasing here, I'm sorry if I botch anything. I'm just paraphrasing the essence of what they are. I'm not reading them out word by word. But if you get the chance, please watch them. But please watch the way he said it too, because you can just gauge so much in terms of how someone communicates something, their body language, and there's so many other cues that go beyond just reading his words on paper. He was absolutely furious with that first half. It was just like we were so far off the standards, and I think the question posed to him was like, was he happy or was he proud of the fight back, of the reaction in the second half? And I can very much understand many coaches, even Arteta in this situation, it could have just been forgiven for saying, yes, we responded well, we stayed in the game, and the boys did well to fight back to 2-2, and then we ended the game. We're fighting out the last 10, 12 minutes with 10 men, and we've done really, really well, and we've had some makeshift fullbacks come on, and Tierney as a left winger and whatnot, but he didn't do any of that. Please, I implore you to go watch and read his comments afterwards. He was furious. He said repeatedly that he hates the word reaction. He actually prefers action. He was basically calling out, questioning, where the hell were we in that first half? Like, why just try and pat ourselves on the back for a fight back when 2-0 down in the last 45 minutes? He wanted that performance for the entire 90. And you could really summarize Arsenal's season, I guess, within these comments that had we consistently played a consistent match across the 90 minutes, time after time, I do believe as much bad luck as we've suffered and as the poor officiating decisions, and we know all that, right? You don't need me to go through it again right now. But Arteta is basically saying the stuff that has been in our control, the things that have been in our hands, we should have done a lot better with. And I think this is pretty much what's underlying these comments. He's basically saying we just haven't been good enough, consistently enough. We haven't met the standards, met the level required. And unfortunately, he's not too keen on now patting ourselves on the back and saying, yay, we fought back from 2-0 down to 2-2 and finished the game with 10 men and come out with a point. Nah, he was having none of that. He was very, very noticeably frustrated by the results. So please do take a look at that. I think you can read a lot into it, and that fire in his belly, that's going to be taking us into next season. So it could have actually been a lot worse than 2-0. David Raya, I thought, was very good in the first half. He made some key saves. That one from Diaz got low. Look, you could probably question why he didn't strike it full first time, right? We were cut open. Salah just rolls the ball to him. He was right in front of goal. If he struck it first time, I think he had more space to work with. He could have gone on either side of Raya, and it's a goal. But credit to Raya, he kept us in it. He kept us in Paris as well, right? Even in the first leg, he's had. No one wants to hear this, of course. I get it with the disappointment we've all suffered the last week or so, but he's really done his bit. I feel strongly about that. I think David Raya has been exceptional this season, especially the first half of this season. I just think he's right up there in terms of when we talk about the elite goalkeepers of the world. I think understandably, and there's a reason for this because of the trophies that they've respectively won, that there's an elite category at the very, very top, and in that top bracket, for that top shelf, you've got the likes of Alisson, Courtois, Donnarumma. I've got a little bit of PTSD, right? Even just saying that name out loud after what he produced across the semi-final tie. So there's a very exclusive elite category. I strongly feel that in that next tier down, if you even want to call it that, I don't want to insult the quality of David Raya by putting him into like a secondary type tier. But if you just understand what I'm saying is that right under, like, very close second to them and rapidly closing in on, I believe David Raya is at the top of that list. He's been exceptional. And if Arsenal are to do what we're all hoping that we do in the next 18 to 24 months and lift major trophies, he's going to be pivotal. And I think that's going to be the type of thing, if he maintains this standard and this quality, I believe that's the type of thing that's going to elevate him into that top tier. For Arsenal and for Spain, I really do believe he's right up there. I'm very impressed with him, his mentality. I'm also very grateful to have him behind the goals, because I've seen Arsenal suffer for a long time without paying the required attention to the quality of our goalkeepers. So sorry for that little aside. Then I'll just get back to the game. But Raya kept us in it. We could have been blown away. Could have been 3 or 4-0, right, inside the first half an hour or so. If anything, we did well to get to halftime at just 2-0 down. I should also say, in terms of the first half, Bukayo, he should have put us ahead in the opening few minutes. That set piece where Liverpool's, I guess they if you want to call it a clever approach to not fall for Arsenal's offside line, the way we start offside and come back in and then go again. They held their line and they advanced further. So all those starting players for Arsenal were offside. Bukayo wasn't. He ghosted in beautifully from an onside position. He should have scored. Look, I just have to call it like it is. He should have scored, and hasn't been a great few days as well, even for Bukayo Saka when reflecting on chances that he should have scored or not. He's probably gonna live with that moment in Paris for a long time. And look, he'll dust it off. He's an elite player, elite mentality. He'll dust that off and he'll go again and be better for it next season. But for right now, it probably should have been 1-0 to Arsenal. But aside from that, it was 2-0 at halftime. We came out really strongly in the second half. We actually had a nice, strong passage of play to open the second half, and Martinelli was picked out beautifully by Trossard. What was really interesting, by the way, I'm sorry I haven't mentioned this yet, but Martinelli, he looked to me that he was playing centre forward. Yes, we have some fluid players up front sometimes who interchange and swap positions, so it's hard to pin down someone, or he's the left wing, or he's the left 8, or etc. Like, we do have some periods where we transition and interchange. To me, though, it looked like a sustained period of time where Martinelli was playing as the 9. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. And maybe we'll see more of this in the last 2 matches. Especially now, Marino has a red card, so he'll be suspended for next week against Newcastle. So I'm wondering if we're going to see Martinelli in that position, or maybe even Waneri. I don't know. Look, I'll talk about that at a separate time. But just to get back to this game, it was a very nicely taken header. So well done to Gabby. Beat his compatriot Alisson into the corner. Well done, 2-1. And look, from there, we really look different. Like, the tempo lifted. And again, I can't read too much further into without again noting the fact that much of this analysis is shrouded under the cloud of that Liverpool are champions. They're somewhat on the beach. They're on their victory lap. They're celebrating. It's not the same, right? I'm not pretending it's the same. The intensity, the significance, I guess, the stakes on the line, they're not the same, right? So, it is what it is. I can't really say too much more about that. But in the context of the match, Arsenal did really well. We pressed hard. We suffocated them. We were knocking the ball around very nicely, getting some nice flow. We had a bit of a swagger as well, which is odd, right? Given that we were still down in the match, but we were creating chances. Odegaard was on it today. He was really, really good. And that shot that was beautifully kept out by Alisson, and Marino was there for the rebound. And he was onside too, so legitimate goal, fantastic, 2-2. right? Odegaard's ball striking, right? The way he struck that ball today and the way he struck it against Donnarumma last week, and even as I say that word again, I quiver, right? Because what a ridiculous save that was. Unbelievable. That bloke he's 8'90", right? He would have seen it so late through a sea of legs, yet he still gets down to keep out Odegaard's stinging strike in Paris last week. Unbelievable. Honestly ridiculous. Anyway, as you can tell, I'm still not over that. But at some point, I've got to move on too. So Odegaard struck that beautifully, and it's really pleasing to see him strike the ball as powerfully as he has been, because that's largely been absent this season as he's struggled with injury and illness and various other challenges. So it was 2-2. And look, on the red card itself, I don't think we can have too many complaints. It was a second yellow. Yes, there's an angle where it shows that, Merino, just as he lunges in, he was pushed slightly in the back, and that's probably completely spiraled his momentum forward, and it looks a lot rasher than what it otherwise would have been. In the grand scheme of things, though, in the grand scheme of the decisions we've copped, I don't believe this is one of them. It's yet another match where Arsenal have to fight out, see out a Premier League match with 10 men. I can't have too many complaints about this one, though. It was a second yellow, fair enough. So we then strung some more changes as a result. So interestingly, we finished this match with Tierney came on for Trossard, who again looked injured. I'm not sure of the severity of that. I haven't heard much about it in the aftermath. So Trossard came off with an injury. Tierney to left wing. We had Martinelli centre forward. Saka came off, I think, only in the 88th, 89th minute for Zinchenko, just to see out the remaining few minutes. So there was a period of time where we had Tierney left wing, Calafiori's come on for White. So Calafiori is at right back, but then with the red card, we've kind of shifted to like a back five, basically. So Calafiori is almost like a wing back, a right wing back position. So, we're really patching together we makeshift defensive lines and formations, and it's really been the story of Arsenal's season, right? We've just had to somehow find a solution with the resources we have, and it's really just in a snapshot summarised Arsenal's league season. But full credit to the players, full credit to their character, and I think pride comes into it too, right? Pride does matter. Pride does matter more than the point does. So Liverpool thought they won it in the closing stages. Look, right before that corner, I really think Odegaard should have played in Zinchenko. Zinchenko was rightly furious with this. Zinchenko had the opening out on his left. Odegaard chose to take the shot. Look, which is fair enough. If he scores that, no one would be questioning his decision to take the shot. I just wish he got it on target. Like, at least test Alisson from there. For it to just roll out for a goal kick, right? It very disappointing. Right, we could have won it in that position. Who knows what would have happened if he strung it to Zinchenko? Maybe Zinchenko would have skied over the bar. I don't know, but he was probably in a better position to take a shot and get it on target. It is what it is. So that they go straight to the other end. It was end-to-end stuff at this point. Earn themselves a corner, and I cannot fathom how anyone has any doubt over this foul. I mean, look at the replays. I mean, with his left forearm, Kanate is basically just, he's just sort of ploughed through Lewis Skelly's head. With his right hand, I don't know what his right hand is doing. He's basically cupped Lewis Skelly around the ear or the neck at the other hand. He's just shoved him. I mean, it's just, how is there even a question mark about this? I'm not sure if there is, or there's a lot of discourse about it, but it's about as blatant a foul in the box, right, as you're going to see. So rightly chalked off. Thankfully, our Arsenal escape with a 2-2. I think it would have been a real kick in the guts to concede from that position, and just you just know what the narrative and the fallout would have been otherwise, and how everyone's queuing up anyway to pile on Arsenal and laugh at us. But it just would have been one of those things where I'm just glad it didn't stand, it didn't count legitimately, and we end the match 2-2. And I guess it is what it is. 2-2 on the day, probably a fair result overall. And look, full credit to Arsenal. We could have been blown away, but we didn't. Anfield's been a very difficult place over the last decade or so. I think it's 3 draws in a row now. What we've got to do next year is we need to be going to places like Anfield that Eddie had, we need to be winning, right? We need to be winning, taking the 3 points there. And yeah, that's certainly something I think that's going to leave just a bit of sour taste in the mouth from when we look back on this season and what can we do differently going into next. So I think that's pretty much that on the match itself. Actually, just one last thing on the match itself. I know this is an Arsenal-related podcast. I'll just make one reference to what I saw with the booing of Alexander-Arnold. That was staggering. That was really, really staggering to see when the substitutes were lined up and he was coming on. For me, it's amazing, right? Like he's been instrumental. He's been absolutely integral to them winning Champions League, a number of Premier League titles, right? He's been a staple for them, a youth player, an academy product. It really was amazing to hear him roundly booed like that at Anfield. Like, wow. I mean, as the saying goes, right, you'll never walk alone. I mean, except when they're departing the club. That was pretty astonishing, really. And I guess, if football fans are entitled to have their feelings and their emotions. I'm not telling anyone else how to feel. From my point of view, from our point of view, I would certainly like to think we'd have a lot more class, I guess, is the word, class and decency to recognise his contribution rather than roundly booing him like that. I found that very, very average indeed. Look, just as I round out this particular recording, I know I mentioned at the start that it's hard to truly just talk about the match itself without just a wider perspective of where Arsenal sit. And I'm not going to launch into the whole transfer window stuff just yet. I'll save that for future recordings. And look, truth be told, we're all very intelligent Arsenal fans, aren't we? I guess to a large extent, you don't need me telling you what we need in the transfer market. I think we all know. That's all the sound bites and all the noise in and around Arsenal and what's sort of leaking out by the top journalists. We all know where it's pointing to, what we're going to address in the summer. So what I do want to talk about, though, is just a couple of puzzling comments from Mikel Arteta. And I will preface this, I will make this crystal clear, right? Arteta's the man for Arsenal. What he's done for us to bring us back into the conversation, like when they're handing out the big boy trophies, what he's done has been outstanding, phenomenal. And you don't abandon the project now. Like it'll be madness. It'll be silly. I know there's still a vocal segment of the fan base who want him out. And look, for me, I just can't subscribe to that because why the hell? We're so close to scaling the mountain, right? We've done more hard work to scale that mountain than it is to abandon it. Like what I mean is, say if you're trying to climb I'm just going to use a broad example here. Say if you're trying to climb Mount Everest and you've gone through so much suffering and hard work and commitment and dedication, right? And say you're 90% there, right? You're actually closer to the summit than you are to the ground, than to base camp. You can actually see it. If you look up, you tilt your head, you crane your neck back, you can actually see the summit. You can see the peak. You're on the precipice of getting there. Why the hell would you abandon that? It's actually harder to go back down than it is to just continue and see it through and climb that mountain. I know I'm using a very generic example here, and I may or may not have lost you in that example. But the essence of what I'm trying to say is, we are so close. We are so close. Are we complete yet? Absolutely not. Are there things that we can do better? Of course there are. And I get the strong, tangible sense from the club that we're aware of that. And we need to be accountable for not doing it last summer because that's really derailed our season. The decisions made last summer, that's derailed our season. Are we going to address that this season? I think this summer, my apologies, we are. I absolutely get that sense. I think that's why Andrea Berta has been signed to see us, to help bridge that gap and help us climb that mountain. So the point I'm trying to make with these closing comments is that Arteta's been making just a few odd comments. And look, I don't want to go too much into the whole thing about, were we the best team in the Champions League? were we better than PSG? I don't fully agree with that. I know why he's saying that. It's more of a rallying call internally to his players to keep them going. It understandably does get mocked and derided elsewhere, and that's not particularly helpful for Arsenal or his reputation or our reputation as nearly men and whatnot. And look, I wish some of these things didn't happen. I wish he didn't say the things he said about, I know he was saying it in jest, jokingly, about when you look at the points tally Liverpool have won with, and what we've produced the last 2 seasons, and we could have had a few Premier Leagues ourselves. Again, I know what he's trying to say. Still though, I just wish he wouldn't say it, because it gets clipped up, it gets circulated, it can come across understandably as very ungracious, and we just don't need that. We certainly don't need that, and it can just be widely mocked elsewhere. I just wish he wouldn't say some certain things he does, but that's one thing. The other part that probably irks me more is that pre-match press conference to this weekend. He made a reference to I'm paraphrasing here, but when he was asked with Arsenal's squad and how we're placed to challenge, he said something like, "We knew at the start of the season that we were very, very short, that we were too short," and something about like there was not much that we could have done, and I don't know what he truly means by them, but on face value, on the surface, I just don't like those comments, because like we were all looking at that transfer window, and we started the transfer window very, very productively, right? Like we were heavily linked with Šeško and then Nico Williams, and we signed obviously Calafiori and Marino, and as the window dragged on, it got into like July, then to August. We're thinking like, okay, at some point now we're going to invest in that forward, like we're going to strengthen firepower, we're going to strengthen the attack, and then. How did we overlook that? It was just really, really bizarre, because we exited a number of attacking players. Exited all for genuine reasons, of course. I'm not questioning whether we should have sold loaned out Vieira or sold Smith Rowe and Ketty. I'm not saying that. We did well with some of those transactions, good fees, right? But we didn't reinvest. And then there was just a big gaping hole left until a panic, Raheem Sterling panic deadline day loan signing. So we can't sit here and now look back and say, oh, we knew that we were very, very short and wasn't much we can do about it. Of course there was. We could have addressed it. We could have actually questioned, why are we then weakening our attackers so much? Like why are we exiting so many players and not reinvesting or strengthening? Right. Why aren't we leveling up, powering up? And even in January, I mean, Mikel, understandably, he's quite annoyed the other day when asked about that in the press conference. He was very clear. I mean, he said it every 2 or 3 days, right? In January, like we want to strengthen. We need someone. We need support. He needed support. The players needed support, and the club and the owners didn't back him. We didn't sign anyone in the January window. So. When we lament now that there was nothing that we could have done, well, there actually was, and we should have. Now, 1 or 2 bad windows doesn't derail the entire project, and we shouldn't abandon this or abandon Mikel and the players, not at all. If anything, now we need to double down, learn from those mistakes, those indecisions, learn from it, and make sure that this does not happen again. We must get this summer transfer right, because we are so close to climbing that mountain. Do what needs to happen. Make it happen. We need to invest in the right areas, strengthen, level up, and my goodness, we're good. Arsenal are really, really good. This is cold comfort to many, right? But I watch us. I trust my eyes. I've been watching this club for 30 years. I've seen the whole spectrum in terms of quality and caliber of Arsenal teams. Right. So I'm not saying I'm an expert, but what I'm saying is I have a lot of experience to draw upon in what I see, and I trust my eyes. I trust my own analysis in this. We are damn good. We are so good. We're not complete yet, of course not. But if we just get those decisions right, those 2 to 3 key players in all the areas that you and I, we all know what I'm talking about, what I'm referring to, get them right, Put them under this manager. Put them into this system. Put them alongside the players of the caliber of Bukayo Saka, Declan Rice, Saliba, Gabriel when he's back, David Raya in goal. Our spine is fantastic. My goodness, we are good. Are we going to be good enough to win the Premier League or the Champions League? There's no guarantees in life, right? However, I know that we are damn well going to be there again next season and the year after. We are damn well going to be right up there. Make it count though. Make it happen. Go and get those transactions done this summer window. Get us a fit, firing, healthy, cohesive squad, right? With the summer off because there's no major tournaments this season. Get that momentum into early next season and look out. Look out Premier League, look out Europe. We are coming. And I think that's just a good time to leave it there. I just hope we just learn from these mistakes and do not repeat them and go and make it happen this summer. So look, thank you again for everyone for listening. If you would be kind enough, please, to leave a like or subscribe on YouTube if you're watching, or a review on your podcast platform, Spotify or Apple Podcast. It'll be most appreciated by me. And let me know how you're feeling. I welcome any feedback or comments, suggestions, how I can improve, any questions you'd like me to address in future recordings. But other than that, look, continue to look after yourselves. It's been a difficult week or so for Arsenal. I've said this many times, but perhaps now more so, it's relevant than ever. Be careful what you consume. Look after your mental health, your well-being. If you're getting drawn into shit fights online and all the sort of crap that's sort of slung Arsenal's way, just if you need to take a step away and just do other different bits and pieces, I 100% support that. Like, look after your mental health and your well-being, right? It is just a game at the end of the day, right? So reinvest in yourselves, your loved ones, the hobbies, the things that you enjoy doing that give you fulfillment and achievement, right? It'll be okay. We'll be okay, right? So if I can provide anything to you in this recording, hopefully it's just that. Just look after yourselves, look after each other, be kind, be respectful, keep well, and I'll talk to you again soon. So until then, thank you again so much for listening, and come on, Arsenal.